Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Today we had news that a low-level contractor with top secret clearance, somebody in their mid-20s, Reality Winner, has released some documents showing that Russians tried a spear phishing attack. In other words, it was a phishing attack that was directly targeted at an organization to try to get into the election system. Now, this is something that's very different. The Democrats have denied all along, as well as the surveillance state, that there was any attempt to change vote totals or to mess with the election itself. No, what they said was they hacked the election by releasing information that was true about Hillary Clinton that cost her the election. Now they're starting to change this. And we've got a couple of high-ranking Democrats, top-ranking Democrat on the Senate Homeland Security Committee, saying this is proof of Russian hacking. Is it? I think there's something altogether different with this. I'm going to go over a timeline here for you because I think this is a Department of Homeland Security surveillance state false flag, quite frankly, to justify the federal takeover of state elections or to hide their crimes. Do you remember December 8th, 2016, we had the Wall Street Journal and many others reporting that Homeland Security had attempted to hack into the Georgia voter registration database. This was a third-party security firm that was working for the state of Georgia. They detected it, they stopped it, and then they backtracked the IP address to the Department of Homeland Security. That got a lot of people interested. That was December the 8th. By January 12th, we had a couple of Congressmen Chaffetz as well as Heiss, write a letter to Homeland Security. They were not happy with the responses that they had gotten from Secretary Jay Johnson. And they said, we request that you investigate Secretary Kemp, he's the Secretary of State in Georgia, that you investigate Secretary Kemp's allegations that the Department of Homeland Security conducted unauthorized scans of his office's computer network. We also question the Department of Homeland Security's ability to remain neutral in investigating its own potential misconduct. And we think an independent investigation of these incidents is warranted. They also demanded to know these issues. They wanted to know whether or not Homeland Security had conducted the unauthorized scan of Georgia Secretary of State's computer networks. Who authorized the scans? Has the Department of Homeland Security conducted an unauthorized scan of any other states' systems? If so, which states? Did DHS scan without authorization? On December 12th, 2016, they said Secretary Jay Johnson responded to them. They said his response was unequivocal, that there was no scanning or security assessment of the Secretary of State's network by DHS cybersecurity experts. They said that he traced the activity back to a contractor that was at a law enforcement training center in Georgia who was engaged in verifying individuals' professional licenses. In other words, something completely different than looking at the State Board of Elections. But then they replied and said Secretary Johnson's one-page response and his staff's telephone conversations, where we tried to get follow-up information, did not provide adequate information to verify or validate any of those statements. And they also said that this was an interim response subject to change. So, in December 8th, we first learned that Homeland Security hacked into the Georgia voter registration database. Then we have congressmen by January the 12th are not happy with the responses that they've gotten from Homeland Security, and they're calling for an independent investigation. So that was January the 13th. 1 month later, Reality Winner was hired in Georgia to work for a federal intelligence contractor, Pluribus International. On February the 21st, the Daily Caller reports that Obama feds had tried to hack Indiana's election system while Pence was governor. This was the Daily Caller, February 21st. Department of Homeland Security officials tried to hack Indiana's state electoral system with at least 14,800 scans or hits between November 1st and December 16th of 2016. The attacks are the second confirmed IT scanning assault by DHS officials against states that resisted then President Obama's attempt to increase federal involvement. This is key. Obama's attempt to increase federal involvement in state and local election systems by designating them as critical infrastructure for national security. Members of the National Association of Secretaries of State voted, and just the weekend before this report, in their winter meeting to oppose the designation. They asked President Donald Trump to overturn this intrusion into state electoral systems by the Obama federal administrators. They say the state's IT team traced the intruder to DHS's computer IP address. They tried 10 times with Georgia, but they tried nearly 15,000 times in Indiana. And then the Daily Caller points this out, and this is very key, folks. Federal officials are barred under DHS rules from trying to penetrate a state system without the express approval of the state. Neither Georgia nor Indiana gave such approval. They were not asked either. The federal government just did it illegally. They say governmental deployment of IT technology could be an evolving new tool against political opponents or to impose censorship. Let me say to you right now that what we have here is an effort by the government, the federal government, to cover up their attempts to get the surveillance state involved as political Watergate burglars, but using all the high-tech tools of the surveillance state. And I think what we're seeing here with Reality Winner might very well be an effort for them to go backwards and to backtrack. Let's go back to the timeline here. Again, February the 13th, she comes in there a month after the congressmen are saying, we're not happy with the verbal answers and responses that we've got from you. We want an independent counselor. 1 month later, this young girl is hired to work for a Georgia contractor, the same state where we saw the first intrusions. Then a week later, we see the Daily Caller say, hey, they tried to get after Indiana as well. And all the secretaries of state say, we don't want you involved in our state boards of elections. Now, May 5th, we have, according to the document that came out, the charging document, they say that the NSA claims that they found cyber espionage against a U.S. company in August of last year. They did not discover that, they say, until April. So it went from August to April before they suddenly realized, after telling everybody there was never an attempt to electronically or cyber attack any of these election systems. And they say, oh, well, you know, it looks like that happened now. We just found out it happened in August somehow. And they report that in April. They prepare the document on May the 5th. May the 9th, Winner prints this. Somehow this appears on the desk of this young girl who is all over social media as being a Trump opponent, somebody who would immediately run to the press with something that says Russian cyber hacking. And immediately somehow she gets this document. Isn't that interesting? So on May the 9th, she prints it and she removes the classified intel. May 30th, The Intercept, that's the Glenn Greenwald's organization that ran this report, contacted the government to authorize the document and provide them with a copy. And of course, Julian Assange is very angry about how they handled that. He's offered a $10,000 reward to anyone who will identify and get fired the journalist who exposed this whistleblower. But there's a big difference between Reality Winner and Ed Snowden. Snowden broke the law, but he broke the law to tell us how the government, the deep surveillance state, was breaking the law in a big way, bigly. Reality Winner broke the law as part of a political attack. And I think what we have here is not so much a smoking gun as it is an effort by the Department of Homeland Security to justify the taking over of the state boards of elections. That's one aspect of this. Because, of course, the Obama administration had tried, as I just reported. They said, we want to declare it as critical infrastructure, and we need to be able to do this, but they don't have any justification for that, and they've had a lot of pushback from the state boards of elections. So what do? Well, after the fact, they realize, we never realized it, but now we've just discovered that the Russians tried to get in and get voter IDs. Why would the Russians want it? I don't know. Why would the Democrats want it? Oh, that's a lot more likely, isn't it? They have a lot more motivation to get that than the Russians do, quite frankly. But I think they also have something else going on here. They want to hide their involvement in committing federal crimes. And as I've reported before, and as we've seen the documents that's been reported by Circa, Drudge Report reported on it as well, it is the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, the FISA court, that came out with a court decision saying that the Obama administration violated the law, violated the Constitution, and spied on political opponents. Rand Paul said, this is the biggest story, and it is the biggest story. This is the biggest story. The fact that we now have all these 17 intelligence agencies that are spying on us 24/7, 365, they have now turned into a political organization. That should be very clear for you. Well, that's it for today. We don't have any more time for this, but we will have more reports on this. Thank you for joining us on the Infowars Nightly News. Join us again tomorrow at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm David Knight.
Electrify your day with Secret 12. It's like lightning in a bottle. We all have days in which we just can't seem to perform at the level we'd like to. Infowars Life Secret 12 is designed to naturally energize your body and mind with 2 great tasting and super high quality forms of vitamin B12. Proper vitamin and nutrient intake is essential to keep your body functioning at optimum levels. The reality is, it's hard to take in the proper amount of vitamins we need each day with our modern diets. Secret 12 by Infowars Life is an easy way to naturally upgrade your vitamin B12 intake and support your body's natural systems. It pairs 2 forms of vitamin B12 into one explosive formula. Vitamin B12 supports healthy energy levels through red blood cell formation and aiding in the body's natural processes, but it also assists with many other functions of the body. Electrify your mind and body and take your health to the next level. Experience the power of Secret 12 at InfowarsLife.com. That's InfowarsLife.com.